This is the second tier canvas for the Fairfield School public measure. All 5 counties had to canvass their results, and then because we're the control county for it, we have to then canvass all the results together.
So do you need a motion to accept the canvas?
Yes.
I'll make that motion. Give a second.
Is there any blaring discrepancies on that?
No, this is, nothing, this is,
I second that.
Okay, do we have any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. We'll see you at 8:30. All right, it's 8:30. Let's get started. Morning, everybody. Do we have any public comments? Any public comments? Any public comments?
Yeah, I'll make one quick. I got a call from somebody out on Kale about a person piling stuff in the grader ditch on the north side.
Okay.
Dwayne probably already knows about it.
No,
Just quarter-mile west of the cement crossing.
probably our road crews put riprap in the ditch.
There's a whole bunch of poles laying there on the north side and some vehicles.
Okay, thanks. All right, any other public comments? All righty, do we have a motion to acknowledge the minutes?
Motion to approve November 1st, November 12th, November 13th, and November 14th.
Woof,
Second.
we have
No,
a,
just the 1st, the 12th.
and the 13th. We have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning, Lee. You were waiting all weekend for that joke, weren't you?
Yeah.
He had to write it on his hand, he did stuff like that.
Oh, it's a soggy day in southeast Iowa. We got Cedar Falls construction completed the patching up on Packwood Road. So they got that all done in 2 days, which is about 4 times quicker than I thought they would. I got a little bit of a tongue lashing. Actually, Melissa got a tongue lashing for me because I didn't notify a couple of the farmers on there that we were gonna have traffic control set up. There. On the road notification list.
No.
See, I think we've got all the operator applications in that we're going to get. We've got a couple, 3 really decent candidates, so we'll look to get interviews started on that. I'm still holding open the superintendent position for probably the rest of this week.
Remember, you might want to give Jack a call just to work through anything.
Ran Liz Cage, let's see. Talking with Brian, our mechanic, and Bob, Kenneth Kronk for the record. We're not looking at any equipment for the next fiscal year. But it's just the old stuff that we've got still running, and we've been doing a good enough job on maintenance on a lot of the things that they're still not costing us a lot to own them. I guess the old rule of thumb is you keep a motor grader 10 years and then you trade it off. I don't buy that.
Good.
Right now, they're costing us fluids, cutting edges, and tires. And, so at a, $12,000 to $20,000 annual cost of ownership, it's ridiculous to turn around, trade it off for $150,000 against a $500,000 machine. I don't see the economic sense in that,
That's a good thing.
and we can't afford it. And the same thing with our dump trucks. That last one we bought was, $250,000, $250,000 by the time everything's said and done. And it's not sustainable to recycle those, you know, or keep swapping those out when they get 20 years old, especially, you know, speaking with Brian, we've got a lot of trucks that are 20 to 30 years old, but there's nothing wrong with them. You know, we're replacing the wear parts and, you know, so we have a handful of old Sterling trucks that are in good condition, but you can't get the oddball parts. You can't, you know, if you get a ding in a door, you can't get a door panel, or you can't get mirrors that fit, or, you know, if you bust a fender on the fiberglass hood, you can't get replacements for that. So as we go into next year's budget, we're going to look at trying to find basically parts trucks. You know, that if we can find some that are reasonable, that we can just kind of keep out in the weeds and salvage them, salvage the parts off as we need them. You know, it's gonna look, I guess it will go under the parts line item, so our equipment purchases will go down. Well, basically to zero, but our maintenance line item's going to grow. But it shouldn't grow as much as what we're looking at with, if you have to replace things as the normal cycle of wear comes on. When I worked for my dad, our newest motor grade was 30 years old and we used it every day. You know, not to the same extent that our maintainer operators use the ones they have, but I think most of ours are under 20 years old. And there's no, we got rid of the one unit that was was costing us $20,000 every 4 years because it was, I think it was a Friday afternoon machine. It just seemed like. What?
Was it a green one?
No, it was yellow.
Yellow.
They're all yellow anymore.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Even the ones with the company with green paint, they're just yellow now.
okay.
Got an email from the IDOT rail program. We applied for that grant 2 years ago and you guys approved it, and that is now coming forward into the 2026 season, which is when that one will come through. So right now, I'm trying to determine exactly what they're going to require for us to do, so that we can get a final cost on our portion of that. And that's right there west of Beckwith, or east of Beckwith, on the direction of dyslexic this morning. But I'll tell you even more on that when I know more. I asked for some clarification because it was Monday morning and I didn't understand his email, so. And then last week, we discovered a level B road where the farmer is not plowing right up to the edge of the road. And unfortunately, we removed a bunch of trees that were in the ditch, just as if the farmer was encroaching on the right of way, and we removed some of the farmer's trees. They were mostly, as near as I can tell, old mulberries and cedars, but because they were on private property, they are a lot more valuable than if they were in our ditch. So we need to come up with a solution to
Good luck with that one.
make Mr. Vulcan happy, or at least less mad than he is right now.
Give me back his trees.
Well, we left them there for him, which is part of the problem is the boom mower throws debris near and far when it's chopping up trees, and we got into a couple rows of his corn, so he couldn't run his corn head to pick his corn, so Bub and I went out there Friday afternoon and removed some of the branches and limbs and material out so he could get his corn head through there to harvest his last 4 or 5 rows of corn.
So they were legitimately outside the 66-foot right of way?
Yeah,
I'll be darned.
yeah, that's a, you know, it's rare that somebody doesn't plow right up or, you know, till their field to the maximum that they can on those level Bs, but they had you know, he's between probably 35 and 40 feet from the center line of road, and I pulled it up on the assessor's website just to kind of verify that the road wasn't offset. And the road appears to be relatively centered in between the property lines, and based on where his buildings are constructed, and, you know, he's got a valid right. But we'll deal with that as we can. Learn our lesson on that. I think that's all I got right now.
Oh, I'd like to ask you. All over Facebook, the big boom that happened at 12:15 last week, is that them dropping the bridge on Libertyville Road?
No, that was them dropping a crane boom on Libertyville Road.
Oh.
They were as near as no, that was Thursday though.
Well, I could be wrong
Yeah,
today.
I think. But they shouldn't have made too big of a boom, because it was kind of a slow, they crumpled it. They had, as near as I can tell from the way it was explained to me, they were trying to pull one of the members off and it caught, and the boom kinked and went down.
Everybody okay?
Yeah, no injuries. The only property damage was to the boom of the crane.
Just doing their job.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I went out there and looked at it. That doesn't look right. And I asked Thomas, and
I just wanted,
yeah, no injuries. And
So now they gotta bring in another.
well, they've got a crane on each side, but they'll have to bring in another crane to pick up the boom for the.
That'd be an expensive process.
but that's not our expensive process.
Say, watch for a change order.
Yeah, but they're progressing on that. They're, you know, it's slow. They're busting up concrete and getting the rebar separated out from it. And they've got a big steel hopper at the west end of the bridge that they're loading everything into. I'm sure they'll have more than one load of that thing of steel coming out of there. And that board. See, all the concrete from the patches at Packwood Road came to the shed, and we'll use that for riprap. Then we've got some broken concrete that our guys put in the ditch on 136 that we'll need to dress up to make a little more useful than it is right now. It looks
Is
kind
that
of,
northeast of town?
yeah, yeah, over east of Spruce,
Yeah,
where we
that's
put,
what I
where we did the
figured.
twin tank cars.
Yeah, yeah.
That they dug the ditches out, and then we got to looking at it, and they overdug the ditches, so they're put the riprap in, there's the broken concrete in there, but then you come back and break that up into more manageable chunks so we can line the ditch and control erosion there.
It seems like that ditch maintenance is kind of a fine art,
Yeah.
as much we've talked about
Yeah,
that.
well, it's difficult to get the right depth. You know, you're trying to make drainage and you're trying to keep it below the road so you don't have standing water in the ditches, but you also don't want to make it so steep that it's a driving hazard, or somebody goes off the road that it's
Mhm.
a danger to you in a crash situation.
All right, thanks, Dwayne. All right, so we're gonna move on to discuss and consider a joint agreement with Jefferson County, Iowa, and the city of Fairfield Iowa for proposed North Campus Ridge urban renewal area. And if you remember from last week, we did go ahead and do this. However, what I'm learning is the piece of the puzzle that I mentioned that I thought I knew actually turned out to be somewhat true, at least what we know now. Shannon's working on getting more information. I know you have a piece, so we're gonna put this puzzle together and see what pieces are still missing. So what I had said I learned at ISAC, and again, I would encourage all of you, and you all three could go to newly elected official training in January, because they go into this. And even if you've been here before, Lee, things have changed since the last time you went. And I know you guys don't like to leave Des Moines, but this is where you find out about this stuff. So,
Leave Des Moines or leave Fairfield?
leave Fairfield, sorry.
Oh,
So
not
Doug,
leaving
what is the
Fairfield. I don't
overall
like going to the
plan?
mall.
Let's start with that and we'll see what pieces we found out.
The overall plan.
Yeah, so how do we fit into it? Elizabeth, you can help me out here. I know it involves the TIF. Because I think the concern is it's gonna take away from the county budget. So explain that to us.
So basically what ends up happening is we have to have the agreement between Jefferson County and of course Paytic City, which they approved it as well. In order, first we have to have the agreement for the urban renewal area before we can annex. And that's the first thing. Then once it's annexed, then we apply for a TIF.
Okay, question. Have you already applied for the annex?
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, we haven't applied for it yet, because we have to do one step at a time.
We thought we annexed it, right? It came before the council, I'm sorry, I've got learned, it came before the council, the annexation of that area. But now because it's within 2 miles of Natick City, we've got to go through a different process.
That's correct. So we had to reset.
Eventually, it's gonna be annexed into the city, and so it really won't. They'll consult with the county regarding the urban renewal area and the TIF. But there's not really anything that the county can do to stop it from becoming a TIF. Also, one consideration is that when it's annexed right now, it's commercial, it's taxed as commercial property. It's gonna be taxed as residential, which is gonna be impacting how much money the county gets from that taxing. So I feel like that might have more of an impact than the TIF, because you're only gonna be, the taxes you won't be receiving when it's in the TIF is the increase in value from where it is now. But again, it's gonna be taxed differently because it's gonna be residential instead of commercial. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense, but what I heard you say is there's nothing we can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. And that's what we need to hear, because I know the auditor's office did some work on this and they don't have all the pieces to the puzzle yet, but it looks like it could have an impact on the budget.
Well, yeah, because it impacts our rural basic too. It doesn't just impact the EMS.
Okay, I don't know if you've had time to read your email since
But
Thursday, but
You're still gonna be, like, the base is not gonna impact it.
Well,
The
yeah,
base
because
is
it's
good.
changing from
The
commercial.
base is gonna be impacted because it's changing from
Yeah.
commercial to residential, but it's not
Right.
gonna be impacted by the TIF.
Okay, very good. That's a good clarification.
Yeah. I have this.
So what I'm hearing then, it's a good discussion, but there's no need to really change anything we did at this time.
Right, I mean, I think the county has to be informed and has to be consulted, all the taxing entities, the school board in as well. But there's not anything you can do to stop it from happening.
So, and this may be really completely off the wall, and it's because of my ignorance, not because of. Does the developer, if everybody jumps through all these hoops, is the developer mandated to complete that project? Or can the developer go, hell, I run out of money, so we're done?
They, once the TIF is committed, but they can, I think there's a time frame, but I mean, things do happen. And of course, there's some legal aspects, but if the less the TIF is based on the amount of development. So the less houses, let's say that they committed 37 homes and they've only completed 12, then, because we're getting ready to do the same thing with the Libertyville Road tip that we're getting ready to do. And that's in phases. And, you know, I'm not real clear on if they're not meeting benchmarks of what our legal procedures are. However, there's, you know, we communicate that with our attorneys. But if the development's not there, then there's not money being collected into the TIF to put in it's like pulling a string on a
Well, but
sweater.
see, you've already put in all the infrastructure. That's what this tip is for, right?
Yeah,
Pay
we
for
haven't
the
put the,
infrastructure that you put in.
yeah, the infrastructure's not there.
That's
No.
my point is though, that if you got 12 houses,
Mhm.
hypothetically,
Right.
instead of 37, you still put in all the infrastructure
To pay
to
that,
accommodate 37 houses.
yeah,
So now it's gonna take longer to
we're covering
recover that.
it, yeah.
And so, but when you say it's a 10-year tip or it's a 20-year tip or whatever it is, whether you recovered it or not, what I'm trying to get to, and I'm not doing a good job of it, and I apologize, but what I'm trying to get to is, so you come up short in 20 years because there was only 12 houses instead of 37. Do you re-tip it? Are we still out that money?
And in 20 years, none of us is gonna care, but, yeah, but
Well, you're
planning.
right, I'll be
20
dead and gone.
Yeah,
But the fact
But
is,
20 years, but if they're not having those legal conversations, because there's a legal avenue that we can take to make sure that these benchmarks are being moved forward. And
I guess where I'm at, and this is not a reflection upon you guys at all, so don't misunderstand. But where I'm at is that we're trying to deal with all of the crap that's come down from up north.
right,
And now, you know, the changing of the classification, which directly impacts us financially. The loss of revenue to rural basic, which directly impacts us financially. And, you know, dare I say it, we're running an ambulance service with no reimbursement from any of the other entities whatsoever. And these are directly impacting our ability to fund those additional operations. And I guess, and so you guys are doing this so that you don't have to take out of pocket when you put in the infrastructure for the development, but it takes it out of our pocket.
I see, yeah.
Now, I didn't say that exactly right, and I get that, but we're still feeling the impacts of this financially.
And we're gonna feel it more this year, I think,
Yeah.
based on what I've heard the legislature's gonna do.
Yeah, we're all bracing.
Can you talk about it?
I'm happy to explain it. I don't know if you have any specific questions. Basically, it just talks about, and I think it's similar to the email that Shannon sent regarding which levies are exempt from TIP and which ones aren't. It's similar to that, but this I got from
Okay.
Rebecca Looper. That was from her conversation with Walters and Cooney. So, but the ultimately, the base is still gonna exist. The amount will be taxed now. However, as I mentioned, what is gonna impact our base is when it's taxed as residential instead of commercial. But as far as the TIF is concerned, that doesn't impact the base. So it's hard to know. It's hard to quantify unless we can, we could probably come up with some numbers about how that's gonna impact the base when it is taxed as residential versus commercial.
Any idea what the timeline on that is?
I don't know, because we'll have to get the urban renewal plan and then we annex it. And then,
That's gonna take a couple of years, isn't it?
Well, it's a lengthy process.
Cause we did an urban renewal plan. And it took us months.
Yeah, so I can see about, what that time frame. Because I mean, me still being relatively new to Iowa. And they were talking that it actually has to be approved by the city, called the city board. And anyway, so there's some procedures in there that I'm kind of unfamiliar with, which I'm learning. And there's got to be some approvals in there by the state. And the city board is the state, because I thought it was, when they said city, I was I'm like, what is this? But it's a state board for the annexation and how all that works. So it's
And I think it's called City Development Board.
city development board, that's right. And I'm like, what is that? So there's a timeline, but it depends on all of these approvals, and this is just the very first step. So,
and the reason why it has to come before you now is because that land is not annexed.
Mhm.
Okay.
But it's really gonna be a moot issue.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate helping to get all the pieces of the puzzle somewhat.
Right. And there may be more questions and I'm happy to answer them.
yeah, and always feel free to reach out. I mean, it's hard for me to, if I'm sitting in my office, I can like disseminate the information for the questions, but just reach out to me anytime and I'll do whatever legwork I need to.
And, as things happen periodically, go ahead and put it on our agenda here and
Yeah.
give an update.
And strategically, you guys have known me long enough that I want to work with the county, and
Mhm.
it's not that I want to separate, and it's kind of, I want to do what's best for all of us. And, trying to figure out the big picture is really important, and sitting down with Vedic City and their council and helping them understand. And I actually had, Martin Brett was on the phone, the developer, and kind of walked them through some things. So communicating with them, that was the first council meeting that I had ever been to there before. So kind of understanding what their thoughts were and trying to answer some of their questions, and I'll get whatever resources I need to get.
And it is a voluntary annexation.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Well, and I think, I think 5 years ago, we probably wouldn't be having the same conversation we're having today because of things that, the way the property tax structure has changed and so on and so forth. So I just think we're more cognizant of impacts maybe because the impacts are different than they were then.
Right. Yeah, and municipalities are impacted the same, and when I first got here, the first thing I was hit with was House File 718, and then I started doing that research, and it seemed like nobody really believed me when I saw the stuff coming down, the pipe. But then once it hit us, and then we're trying to figure out different revenue streams, because we all have these operating budgets, and there's a formula there. We just haven't figured it out. And when we do figure out the formula, then they change it again.
Well, even when you tip it,
Welcome
this
to
House
Iowa.
File 718 directly impacts your revenue stream, even though you're tipping it and you collect all the taxes for that infrastructure.
Mhm.
You're collecting a reduced level of taxes than you would have collected prior to House File 718.
Yeah.
Because of the structure.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I've actually heard some city managers say that we're just gonna tip the whole city, just to try to mitigate some of the impacts, and you can't do that, but that's kind of where they're upset, and as they all should be, and we have to improvise, adapt, and overcome kind of thing.
Yeah, everything I've learned on it, and I am no expert on TIF, it's a tool.
Yeah,
It's one of the tools in the toolbox. There are other tools to use, so you want to use it as a tool, not a be all end all.
right, and it's really hard for us because we need that infrastructure in place. We need the homes built, but we need a revenue stream to get the infrastructure in, because the city doesn't have the funds to, go in and, put in $1.5 million, $2.5 million worth of water, sewer, streets and, curb and gutter. But those are all the things you need. So it's kind of the chicken and the egg scenario because you can't, you can put in a chip seal road with no ditches, and we've actually got housing developments in the city that are built this way. And then a decade later, they were supposed to pave the roads, and then they looked to the city and were like, well, that's $1.5 million to do that. And then we can assess your property. So the developer is actually wants to do the TIF so that they can put in the infrastructure so that they can, and we don't have these, 2 decades from now, we've got the infrastructure that is not there. And then they look to the city or the county to say, put this in. We've waited long enough. I've owned my house for 20 years and I don't have a paved road yet. So you've got to do it first. It's tough.
We appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
No, good dialogue. Stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come on that through the years. All right. Number 2, discuss and consider disposal system contractor's license for Southern Iowa Septics.
I've heard nothing from anybody that, no reason not to approve it.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And we have a second, do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Discuss and consider suspension or abatement for 200 North 28th Street, Lot 37 in Fairfield. Mark, you're on, can you bring us up to speed on this? And this is number 3 in our packet.
The owner of the property came in asking about delinquent notice that they received. It appears as though starting in 2011, there was a credit that was put on this through the state, the disabled and elderly credit. It was not applied for this year. The taxes are suspended through DHS, but the owner's looking for an abatement because this is the only charge that they have this year. I have already turned in the request for credit reimbursement through the state on the disabled and elderly. So this would be basically a county loss. We wouldn't get the money back.
And are we talking a total of $297?
Yeah.
Unknown caller.
Mhm. Looks like this person doesn't have the income.
So Mark, well, wait a minute here.
Any thoughts, Susie?
Yeah, I think that we've sure done this for many folks. And that usually aren't in this bad of a situation.
Yeah.
So I see no reason not to do it.
Mark, are you still on there? Hey, I got a
Yeah.
question. Is this a double wide? And bear with me here, but I was just curious why it's an older trailer than mine, and mine are $97 a half, and it's a 16x80 or 16x76.
Mhm.
And these are $126 a half. I just, and
It's
it's
2
a,
years worth,
huh?
2 years worth.
Okay,
23 and 24.
my bad. Okay. All right, I get it. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so is that a motion?
It is.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Mark.
You bet.
Number 4, discuss and consider courthouse records at Maple Street Building.
So, I don't remember whether I put this on here.
I think you did,
Okay.
but we all got this email.
I got this email, I responded to Vanessa. Well, I responded to everybody. But I just simply stated that we actually met and discussed all of this with the court administrator, who originally, when we first started the discussions, was the clerk of court, and was also discussed with the new clerk of court. They were fully well aware of the move, and they, what's the word I'm looking for, approved the move. And so we went forward with it, and we're not gonna move them back. And their hours at the DHS office are the same hours as the state, and probably the same holiday schedule. And so, I'm not sure what there is to look into. Now, I do know that in discussions I had with Samantha, some of the files were not put back in the file drawers in the correct order. But there again,
What are the odds of anybody wanting those files?
well, Samantha did because she was looking for them. That's how she knew they weren't in the right order. She found them, but.
Good.
So anyway, my whole point is that, and I know Judge Gookin made comment about, or at least was indicated that he said he would reach out to the court administrator, which, as far as I know, would be Jennifer Nelson, who was in the loop, sat here in our offices when we had the discussions, so, and they're staying down there where they're
I just
at.
think it's a matter of lack of communication. It looks like.
And dare I say it, especially with an attorney sitting here, as long as they have access to those records, where they're located is,
But there was a question in my mind about the security of those records.
they're under lock and key.
And if I want to go out there, how do I get the key?
Well, I am assuming if what Dave said was accurate, that they have the key there at the building to access it. And
Because it'd be no different. They need a key to get up here or
Right.
down there when they had it. So
right. I suppose that, one can make the argument that there's somewhat of an inconvenience, but I go back to what I've vented about for a long time is that the court system keeps co-opting space in the courthouse to a point where we can't operate. And something has to change, and the court system didn't offer any, I went to the clerk of court years ago, 2, 3 years ago. And said, when we still had some ARPA funds, I said, if we purchased 2 high-speed scanners and hire some temporary help under your jurisdiction
Yep.
to scan this stuff in, and she said, oh, the state wouldn't do it. Okay, well, it has to go.
You know, so we work through all those weeds. Essentially, it's as simple as we need some sort of security and you maybe feel good about that.
Yeah.
We also maybe should have let people know. It's our fault.
Well, now they know.
Right.
And if you remember.
And we
Dave-
are sorry
Right.
that happened.
Dave actually built a door frame and put a door in down there, if I remember.
Right.
Well, it seems like the court administrator would let the attorneys know, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, and she may have had a lot on her plate, you know, I.
Just starting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Hopefully Dave will be here. Let's go to number 5, discuss and consider Permar invoice for ambulance base.
So, and Josh not here, but I remember Josh saying that he was going to get documentation from Permar as to what. Did you get anything?
I haven't received it.
To what they were going, I want to say this.
Do you have those?
What they were going to. How do I say this?
If this is
They added,
money,
they added an extra door, we did add an extra door stuff in, so they were gonna separate that out, so that.
yeah,
So it sounds like we don't have the information we need.
That, well, evidently not, now I don't know, he was gonna be out of town or something, was going on.
he's got a family thing today.
Yeah.
I
So-
thought you guys were trying to decide if this was coming out of your buildings line, and that's why you put it on the
Right.
It
agenda.
was coming out of what?
Your
we-
buildings line or
Oh,
not,
okay.
Is that where we're paying it from, or are we paying it? Is the
I don't know what
ambulance
we,
paying it?
can Shannon tell us real quick what we've got?
in your buildings line.
I guess technically we could take it out of this, some of that, pay for it out of that $250,000 remaining ARPA funds.
Could go either way. This would, if this was 2 years ago, we would have taken it out of ARPA funds.
And we're gonna deduct $434.77 because we're not gonna pay sales tax. So that puts us down around 6,200 round figures.
These are the services that we initially contracted with Lock Doctor.
Yes,
These are the Lock Doctor.
these are because Lock Doctor did not do the job. So you need this for future.
Right. All those back.
You want that?
Yeah, we gave Lock Doctor $10,000.
And how much did they do?
Well, that's what Permar was gonna do. Yeah, well,
Okay.
there supposedly, there was work done, but from everything that Josh indicated to us, even the wiring was a complete disaster. And the components that they had, these are my words, but the components were for, what do you call it? They were cosmetic, not functional. And so that all had to be.
Do we ever receive any invoices or kind of like any accounting of what had been done or what hadn't been done
No.
by Lock Doctor?
Multiple times, if you go back, Michael, I asked, the board asked Michael to send a letter, which he did indeed do,
Like, yeah.
way back when. And eventually responded and said, well, I'll get it done by July 15th, and that came and went, said, well, give me till July 31st, and that came and went, and then here we are, and when we had Permar there, all of a sudden he
He
stops
shows
and
up.
goes, well, I was gonna finish that this week.
He probably drove by and saw.
Very likely, very possible. So the reality of it is that, other than that section, that part that we added on, I think all of this needs to be reimbursed.
So we have contracts. Someone.
Locked out there.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
I mean, he sat right there where you're sitting.
yeah, that would be in a minute somewhere.
Okay.
Either that or out at the ambulance in a file drawer, if there is.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Mike, see if he has any.
Yeah, he might have something.
He's out of the office, get training this week, but I'll get in touch with him.
Training to be a lawyer.
I would think you would have more of a chance of finding it here than out there locked in a file somewhere.
It would just be nice to know what he agreed to do.
I would start with Mike and then there'd be something in the minutes from here.
And on you, or excuse me, that was zoomed.
Yeah. But boy, time frame for that, I don't know. We'd have to go back to the agenda.
So the question is, you want to decide whether to pay it from ARPA or the building fund.
She's trying to,
And
I
so
was just
if,
gonna tell you, the building sign is $19,009.46.
I would go with ARPA then, because this far into,
so what do you do then, Dee? When we do get the money, are you gonna give it back to ARPA or are you gonna throw it in someplace else? I just like a smooth path.
well, assuming we get the money.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I don't, either way, but
yeah,
Do you remember when that was?
do I remember when it was? It was this, it was,
couple of
oh, it would have
year and a
been-
half ago.
Well, it was September, I remember, of last year when we. As I remarked to you multiple times that we're a year out and nothing's been done. So it was September of 23. And I guess, Susie, in answer to your question, that if we were reimbursed or were able to recoup these funds, in the motion, we should make it that it goes back to the ARPA.
yeah, yeah, we could, but I just don't think that's a clean way to do it.
And I agree because those funds have to be designated by the end of this fiscal or this December.
Right.
Mhm.
Which at some point, we've got to start talking about Liberty Communications. Because
We
that's
will.
$270,000.
Right.
We'll do
And they-
that first
they've
part
not
of
done anything,
December.
Even recently, they've not, well, that's not on the agenda.
Well,
No,
yeah.
no.
Okay,
May I ask one question? Is the scope of services the same as per MAR? Did they do anything additional that the lockdown was not going to do?
yes, we added a door.
Added a door?
Yes,
Okay.
and Josh was gonna get that information from Permar. And separate that or not deduct it from the bill, but show us. What that extra work,
And
So
the-
is that something you might need to wait and see what Josh next week's meeting? Are we gonna have a meeting next week? Abby wants to say something.
So lock doctor 10-2-23 ambulance budget, general basic.
so we paid it out of the ambulance budget,
Mhm,
because we paid them up front.
that's right.
So maybe it should go back in the ambulance.
That's
budget.
right.
Yep.
We still have to pay this.
So let's be consistent then and stick with the ambulance budget. They should have some money in there.
Okay, that's fine. I just, and that's a good,
It's just a cleaner way to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
What did you ask me? Or ask us? Oh,
She wanted to know your name.
well, that's, I'm not sure I can.
The scope of services.
Yeah, we did add a door.
And did you pay anything else? Is this the only bill?
Yes, it's the only
amount?
bill and we've not paid anything on it yet.
Okay, okay.
And the taxes gotta come off. What do we gotta do, Abby, to notify them to remove the,
There's a form, Darcy would have it.
okay. Send to them so that we can send it with the bill or whatever. So, do we go ahead then and authorize? Payment? Can we? Authorize payment on today's agenda. It says discuss and consider per more invoice for ambulance space.
So.
So
Are you
Discuss and
gonna-
consider paying it.
Yeah,
Okay.
but will it be another charge, an additional charge with that? If so, or is that all that the bill is?
Yeah, that's it.
No more charges.
Right, yeah, but they will separate out for us for the benefit of going back to the other vendor. What in this bill is the additional that we asked for?
An itemized list might be helpful.
Yeah,
So I guess I would think you could pay that, but you should also say this, there might be another additional part coming. I'm assuming that's what we said.
no, it's not really itemized.
It's not, that's why it would be helpful to have one.
Yeah, and Josh was gonna get that. And we did not take. Right there. Permar will complete the installation of the PDK access control system on the front door and the back door. Permar Security will install new access on the ambulance bay van door. All existing parts must be in working order. The customer will have to purchase new ones. So essentially, there is a singular door there at the bay. They installed it on that door. Well, we don't know what the cost is to do that. It's included in the 5967. So. But I'll get with Josh, make sure they break that out.
How about would a motion to pay this out of the ambulance building line item once the cost of the door has been itemized out and the tax is left off? How's that for a motion? Does that work, attorney?
Make it contingent on, getting an itemized account.
Contingent on an itemized bill, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye. You got a copy of it?
All right, number 6, consider recount request. All right, who has info on this?
There's a code section that applies it. It says that if we, what did it here? The county board of canvassers shall order a recount of the votes cast for a particular office or nomination in one or more specified election precincts in that county if a written request for a recount is made not later than 5 p.m. on the third day following the county board's canvass of the election in question, which we did receive a recount request Thursday for the United States Representative District 1 race. And I haven't heard back from the apparent winner to see who they are choosing as their representative on this board, and then
You received bond, right?
it's less than 1%, so
So when does this have to happen by?
December 2nd.
Oh,
I'm hoping that the parent winner will choose their representative so that we can get going on this week and not get into Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Because 4 years ago, we finished at 6:30 the day before Thanksgiving with the recount, and I would prefer not to do that this time. But
So
I don't
what-
have a say.
What do you need to make that happen?
I need the apparent winner to choose their representative and then for both parties to choose.
So has the apparent loser, for lack of a better, chosen their person?
Yes, that's on the recount request sheet.
Okay,
We have
So
that.
we know who.
Yeah, it's somebody out of Iowa City.
oh,
Chris Liebig, I believe. I'm
Liebig.
Liebig.
Is a person.
so they need to get that information to you?
The winner has to get the information to us so that the apparent winner, so that those two people can be coordinated to find.
All right,
With auditor staff can sit on that board.
so
And I
we,
have to be there anyways.
all right, so we can pass this today. Right?
Well, yeah, I think, I mean.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion for this?
So move, or recount the votes cast for
US rep.
US
District one.
representative in the 2024 election.
Do we have a second?
Is this, I just need to ask a question. Is this for all precincts in this county? Oh my, I second that.
We have to pay it.
Huh?
And we have to pay it.
We have to pay it?
Yes, we do.
I
And the
thought that-
people that sit on that recount board don't get paid either. Per
That's
Iowa
interesting.
code.
Yeah, I know. We don't get paid or we didn't get paid. That's-
But
Okay, we
they,
have a motion and discussion.
never mind, go ahead.
Go ahead.
We have to pay it.
We have to pay it
Why do the counties have to pay it? I know it's a state thing, I get it.
because it wasn't within the margin of automatic recount.
Got it. All right.
If it was, or I'm sorry, I
The
said that wrong.
bond.
It was in the
Yeah.
margin of an automatic recount.
If it wasn't, they have to put it.
Yeah, I
Okay,
said that wrong.
No.
good clarification. All right, we have a motion and a second and all in favor.
I,
How many do you need?
She probably needs to know.
Just, yeah, two. good.
Meet with Dave Taft regarding best move invoice and other county building maintenance. Is he coming?
I texted and
Harvey the White Rabbit.
Shannon called, or I had asked her to call.
Good, thanks. What's going?
Would she have it? Yeah. Thank you.
While we're waiting on that, any committee reports?
Here's Susie.
Oh,
Here, did you give me that?
Oh, thanks.
So
Deanie was.
yes.
Which one?
I went back
Oh,
and I pulled the video of our meeting that day that we approved this invoice, or I'm sorry, that we approved the bid.
Mhm.
Specifically in that bid, we were discussing and about making a motion, and I said something, and Susie said, so you mean not to exceed? And I said, yes.
Mm.
And then and Dave was still sitting here, and then I explained to Dave, I've been down this road before. This was the exact statements that I made. You can go back, I've got the link. I said, I've been down this road before where we get these low bids. Because I think everybody in this room was surprised at how low that bid was. And I said, I've been down this road before where we get low bids. And then when it's all done and said, they double the invoice.
Yep.
That's what we got. And so whether, what I told him is, I said, I understand. But I said, I also look at this and I see September 5th and September 12th. I got 7 days. September 5th was $3,420 and September 12th was $3,360. And the 7 days between those two dates. And then we had 3rd and 4th. And in there is as well, which is fine. But we had 4.25 hours of 6 men on September 4th at $1,530, and then 7 men for 5.75 hours for $2,415. So there was $3,945 on September 4th. I just think that, now obviously, best move isn't here to have the discussion, but my comment to, Dave last week when he and I talked about this is that, you know, whatever the board decides to do is what the board decides to do, but I'm staying with the $7,800.
Well, and I think the reason I put it on here is last week before our meeting, he was trying to talk to me and I said, hey, you need to talk to all three of us. So that's why it's on here. So.
Is he here? Okay.
I reached out to him and jamming that, so.
And the other county building maintenance was. Kelly had said something about making sure that the sidewalks and stuff were kosher before winter hit.
She talked about that in the safety meeting.
Okay. It's a little late to be doing sidewalks as far as if we were to do concrete or something, but. I guess I've not walked around to look at our concrete. I walked around to look at our sidewalks.
Hey, Dave, can you come meet with the board now? All right, thanks. All right, bye. 5 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and do claims. It's like the bottom of our. Any committee meetings?
Oh, thanks, you can do things.
Yeah.
Don't put that rubber band on there backwards. It doesn't work if you do that.
Lee?
Why?
I had mental health advisory, or what, NIASI, mental health agency of Southeast Iowa, formerly SEAL. And the gist of it is, it sounds like it's gonna quit existing as it is at the end of the year. And magically, within one day, there's gonna be, the state of Iowa will award bids and the new services will start the next day. So we're all gonna wait and see how that goes. You want to add anything to that, Sandy?
I do, just a little bit. Hold on, I'll start my video. Maybe, so you can see me. There, now you can see me. So that's accurate, what Dee said. There's a transition period from January 1st to June 30th to try to get things in place. I'm pretty sure that everything won't be in place, but nevertheless, the regions are done on June 30th. And the main thing I want you three to know is section Iowa codes 229 and 125 deal with substance abuse committals and mental health committals and our advocates. And they're not traveling this path with us. They're going to be my understanding is they stay as a county employee and right now you share the advocate with several other counties, but in lieu of not having any kind of 28E between all the counties, you know, that might become a problem on July 1st. And secondly, nobody knows where the money is coming from, only that Iowa code says you must have these advocates. But they're not traveling the path with the regions to the new ASOs.
Is that something that can be straightened out with legislation or should be?
Have it, then the state pays it. That's my position.
I don't know if any of that can be straightened out. It's been talked about and it's not budged. So you might want to review that information. We have an advocate that is here in Jefferson County, and she also does advocate work in Van Buren, Lee County, and
Right.
Keokuk County. And then we have another advocate for the other well, 2 more advocates for the other 8 counties of our region, but I only know that Jefferson County needs an advocate and they're not traveling the path of the ASOs.
Okay,
And I-
thanks.
Sandy, in regards to the advocate, you just said that the other counties have an advocate. So
It's all the
the,
same person. It's all the same person.
right, but what I'm asking is that since the regions are being dissolved, Jefferson County is not responsible for an advocate in Mahaska County, are we?
You're only responsible in Jefferson County.
No, or I didn't say it right. What I'm saying is that you were talking about that we have this advocate that we're kind of in a partnership with these other counties, even though there's not a 28E. What I'm asking is, since the region increased in size from 8 to 12 or whatever it was, or 8 to 15 or 8 to 19, are we sharing advocates with all of these other counties? The 19 counties?
When we increased from 8 to 13, we also gained another advocate. So we have 3 advocates covering 13 counties.
And Jefferson County is expected to pay for these 3 advocates, at least in part?
We don't know how the funding is going to occur.
No,
We
I mean,
also know that they're not traveling with the region.
currently, right now, what I'm asking is right now,
Right
we-
now, we're paying for the advocates. Yes,
all 3 of them.
For the
Yes.
region.
yes.
And
And
so what
These
you
are
say,
going away and the ASOs are not picking up that
thanks,
at the
Sandy.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
just
I'd
don't want you to be blindsided and then
Right.
on July 1st say, oh my God, we have to find money for this advocate. You know,
So where is the local access point for services for Jefferson County residents?
in my office.
No, I mean, starting July 1.
Nobody
I
knows.
can't answer that. I don't know what happens on July 1st.
See, that's where these bids are supposedly being a keyword here. They'll figure out who the next providers are. after
We-
July 1.
Didn't we hear that if I remember right, we read on the RFP that they're supposed to have it final and the information out as to who won, like on or about December 30th?
Right, that's what was discussed Wednesday.
And
at the
then there's a
meeting.
second RFP for the behavioral health access points. And we're hoping that goes hand in hand with the ASOs, but it's interesting that they had 2 RFPs.
It's very convoluted and it's typical. Nobody knows anything till last minute.
Yeah, I'm just, where I'm at is that, if Lee Dimmitt needs services, does he have to travel 60 miles is there a local access point? Is there a local number that, do I go down to the DHS office? Where do I go to say, hey, I need help? Or do I have to travel 60 miles to find somebody?
Well,
Lee,
Right now,
I understand your question. I've actually asked that more privately than open, but I've asked, where's the details? I want to know the specifics and the details of what's coming around the corner, but nobody seems to have those details.
Yeah,
Sandy, wouldn't the simple answer be, at least as far as we know, Southern Iowa Mental Health? Would that be where he goes?
Well, that's one place to go.
but
For
what I'm saying is that right now, if I need help, I can pick up the phone and call Sandy Stever,
Right,
okay?
all that changes.
All that changes, and I'm just wanting to know, when I pick up my phone, who the hell do I call?
Nobody knows yet.
I don't know the details, Lee, and I'm kind of frustrated about that as well, but we just don't know the details.
Okay,
Not that this matters, because I was making my retirement plans well before this all came out. But at my age, I'm just ready, I'm just ready
Sure.
to be done. And, if I wasn't as old as I am, I'd be jumping on this bandwagon more, but my last day officially is January 3rd.
now, I get that, and I appreciate everything that you're doing, I just see this. And I know, and this is not and that had nothing to do with anything other than the fact that I think we've all been around the block enough to know that,
It's frustrating.
yeah.
And so what I can tell you, when you do committee appointments in January, you probably don't need to do one for Mahassey, because there is no Mahassey anymore. All right, thanks, Sandy.
Well, they would like to have somebody through June.
Oh, that's right. They want, if somebody wants to volunteer, they want like a 6-month. They want,
Yeah,
what,
at a-
5
at a minimum.
supervisors to do 6 months?
Yes.
until the absolute end. So
And-
that might be a good thing for you.
There
to go
will be
on.
an advisory. There will be an
They meet the
advisory.
second Wednesday. Well, that could change, but currently it's the second Wednesday in the afternoon at 1:30.
Yeah.
At
And
the
there
Will.
will be an
What's in January.
advisory for the new ASO.
Yeah. So stay tuned.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Hey,
You're
Dave.
welcome.
So what we have on the agenda is to meet with you regarding best move invoice and other county building maintenance. So
Okay.
all your questions for us.
I'm sorry I didn't read the agenda. I just thought this game got kicked down the road first. There's a lot of little things that happened and didn't happen here. We originally met and if I'm mistaken, Lee told me that you put in a motion to not exceed $7,800. That meeting was.
Well, and I actually went back and reviewed the video, and I made a motion and Susie helped me with the motion, and she said not to exceed, and I go, yes, that's what I meant, and then in that video I said, talking to you, you were sitting in that chair, and I said, I've been down this road before.
I remember the conversation.
And that, this bid was low. I mean, I think we were all surprised at the bid. I'm not. And I said, but I've been down this road before and we get these low bids and then when we get the invoice, it doubles. And so,
Okay.
and I said, I'm not going to go down that road.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure unless I'm mistaken, what I said was that in that meeting was that I would have this discussion with the contractor and have him send something over.
Right.
And I assumed it was gonna come over in the form of a contract that would be signed.
Abby, you got something.
So
An email.
Yeah.
that's what I assumed was going to happen. And, but at no time did I tell the contractor.
Right.
That it was not to exceed $7,800. So if you guys didn't tell the contractor it wasn't to exceed $7,800, then that whole thing's off the table because he was unaware of it. If I had told him
Right.
it's gonna cost, we're not gonna exceed $7,800 no matter what happens here.
Right.
I would have asked him to revisit his estimate to make sure that he was good with however this is gonna turn out.
Well, you sent Abby an email and then you just discussed it. So
And I had,
we keep kind of having the same discussion.
Yeah.
So where do we want to end up on this? Or just wait and see what he does?
He's been paid $7,800. Where that invoice or that amount was authorized.
By the board.
Yep. So at this point in time, ball's in his court.
Okay. And we did have him on the agenda last week, which
Yeah.
you said he couldn't come.
Probably would be December
Yeah.
before he.
So let's just, it
You
sounds
know,
like just hold it for now and see.
what I was going to do is just do a little bit of digging. Because we've got, the way his bill is structured, I can tell where he was at and what he was doing. And I can also go back to all three of those rooms, that's what we moved 3 rooms.
Mhm.
I can isolate those rooms in the bill, and I can also determine how much volume was actually moved within those rooms. So, let's call room number 1 the largest room. Room number 1 didn't have any double stack stuff.
Mm.
It was just straight, put it on a cart and move it. So room number 1 will give me a baseline as far as
Oh, I see.
what
Sure.
happened. The other 2 rooms have double stacks in them, and I can compare that baseline and determine how much over he actually went from the baseline. And so what I'm saying is that I believe, and I don't know with 100% certainty, but I believe that what he ended up with was a bunch more time in two items. One was having to deal with the double stack stuff. Now I went over there and I took pictures of the room, and one of the things that's in there is also a drawer that came out of one of those double stack things. I was over there when those guys were fighting to put every drawer back in there.
Mhm.
And it didn't take 5 minutes, it didn't take 10 minutes, some of it was taking 15 minutes. And that was with two people screwing around with it. That stuff did not go back together right. In order to move those double stacks, they had to take out a minimum of 3 drawers, 2 up, 1 down, and pull the screws out, which were all boogered up because this had happened several times before with these things, and then they fought to get the screws out. And then once the upper, they separated the upper and lower, then they had to put these stupid drawers back in again. Put them on the truck, haul them over there, take them down the basement, break them back down again by pulling out the drawers, restacked and put the screws back in. None of this stuff was something that you could see when we did the walkthrough. None of it. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, is how that impacted his schedule, how much time that he actually was in there. Because I know that when the guys were here, they were working hard. The owner and his son made sure that that one of them was on moving those file cabinets down the stairs. Some of the file cabinets took two people to move down. Probably 2/3 of them took 3 people to move down. I mean, on that end, it turned into a nightmare because they had the ramp coming in on the back porch there in the little alcove. They brought the cabinet straight in, and as soon as the cabinet got all the way in, they had to turn it 90 degrees and then put it back on the cart and then take it down the stairs. One guy pulling up, 2 guys pushing up from the bottom.
I'm not unsympathetic to what they did
I
because
know.
I did it a lot of years in that building. You're right. I get it. I go back to and I understand the.
Yeah, I
the screw
understand
thing,
your end of it too.
You know, and the other thing is that I do believe that if, and maybe I expected too much, I guess, but I do believe that when they ran into this, that maybe it should have stopped at that point and we should have at least had the conversation. You know, every business that I've ever been in, if it's, at least you get a change order. And then we have the option of approving or not approving that change order, but and maybe that's really getting too deep in the weeds. All I'm saying is what I said to you the other day, Dave, that, okay, they didn't see the part about the screws and having to take them apart, okay? And I don't know whether they could have moved them, taken the doors out and leaving them together or not. I don't know.
No, they would not have gone in the elevator.
But I don't know what they looked at. I mean, they obviously knew where they were taking them. They knew what the steps were like. They knew where they were gonna put them over
You're
there.
100% right with all of that, but like I say, the only variable here that I can see is the additional time that they had in there. And then there was also, in the room which is next to the computer room down there, just west of the computer room, there was a bunch of books in there, the great big books that you end up with. Some are skinny, some are fat. Anyway, I think I counted 94 books, half of which you couldn't see because they were buried behind the cabinets. So that I think is a valid point too. Should you decide that you want to, however you want to handle this, all I want to do is give you the information. You guys can make the decision. I can tell you that on his end, I don't believe the way he does business allows for any of this to ever happen. I think it's just, he's had a lot of experience. As to whether or not he's had any experience whatsoever with double stack file cabinets, I would say probably not, because the age of these things.
Right.
I mean, these things are probably 50 years older than he is.
Yeah, there's no space age metal in any of those cabinets. I know that for a fact.
And he did tell me at the time that he was having trouble with the screws. And then he ended up calling me the next night at home and he asked me, he said, do we need to put all screws back in? I said, I'll tell you what, you go ahead and double stack 2 of them without the screws. I want you to pull the top drawer out and then I want one of your guys to hang on it. And he called me back 5 minutes later and he said, Dave, we gotta have screws in there. Because what would happen is if somebody was in there, they could pull that cabinet down on them and kill them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that simple. So I told him to put the screws back in. But at the time that he discovered this, he had already moved all of those loose files out of the room. He had already moved all of the file cabinets out of what we're calling room number 1, which is a large one. And so it wasn't until he was probably, he was in it up to about here when he discovered what this problem was. And, you know, you you pull up for a day or do you just go for it? Well,
Right. All right. Well, it sounds
Well,
like the ball's in
I
his
said,
court.
let him come and we'll have a conversation and what comes out of the
Yeah.
conversation, we'll see.
I do believe, like I stated before, that, you know, that if you're gonna hold it to $7,800, he had to be told, and he was not told.
Oh, I beg to differ with you. I called him.
Before the move?
No, not before the move.
No, you called him,
okay.
you called him
I
after the
thought you,
move.
okay, I thought you were referencing.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nope, on 10/23/24. I
yeah,
called
I
him.
saw that.
Or 10/28, excuse
Yeah.
me.
Okay, so do you have anything else for us as far as county buildings, maintenance, anything?
Nothing else with that.
No, any other
Hmm,
things for the board related to what
Is-
you're doing?
is,
Oh.
yeah, have you guys figured out whether or not the 3rd floor is gonna be occupied by mental health after Sandy goes, or
We haven't gotten that far.
you haven't got that?
Can you see what that is? It's from True Value. We keep getting these little bills.
I'm
Okay,
for taking that off his back. Especially if everything else is going away.
What do you mean? Oh, the space up there?
Yeah, the 3rd floor office. Yeah,
you know, the one,
Well, that's not on the agenda.
no,
yeah, go ahead.
What is that?
Full invoice due 23/36, so just for minor purchases. Yeah. When we look at that, you know, during the last election, we used that space down there, which was nice,
Mhm.
because Abby had a lot more room down there.
Right.
I would like to go ahead and make the improvements, it's cosmetically, so it basically.
Well,
everything-
something's gonna have to go down there.
But basically everything but the floor, you know,
So
all the walls, paint all the ceiling and everything else.
would that make sense to do now before there's any decision? I mean, it has to be done.
Well, the ceiling all has to be done anyway. The walls have to be repaired. We might as well paint them and then, you know, should you decide that you want to put carpet down there, then the rooms are ready to go.
I guess, yeah, to be determined, but you can do the basic. It seems like you could do the basic cosmetic stuff we know needs done. Because who knows how many years that's been.
The issue we've got at this point is we've got $19,000 left in the building line item, and we're not even 6 months into the fiscal year.
Mhm.
So we have to look at priorities.
Well, that's not gonna be a significant cost, is it?
No, under $2,000 for everything with the exception of the flooring in there. I think we'll cover it. The one thing I wanted to ask you guys about though. In the past, anytime I've done any spraying up here, I've brought my own sprayer.
Mhm.
I don't have my own sprayer anymore.
Okay.
I don't want to buy one for the county because it'll never get used again. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and purchase one and then just charge you a rental for using it up here. which would probably, probably come out about $150 or something like that.
What do you think?
Well, we have it on the agenda, we can cross that bridge. I don't see that as being unreasonable, because otherwise you go out to True Value, you can rent one from out there, but it's gonna cost you $150.
You can't, I don't believe you can rent one there,
Okay,
because, they've all found the same things, that people don't know how to clean them, they bring
Yeah,
them back.
that makes
and-
sense.
And they're
Yeah.
worthless, so I don't even believe you can rent one right now.
Susie, thoughts?
I'd say put it on the agenda for next week.
Well, we've got that on today as far as this is general maintenance stuff. Do we need to go to that detail? I mean, we can.
well,
Or else in a couple of weeks, if she's gonna have a recount, we may not want to have a meeting next week unless there's anything.
well, I guess where I'm at on it is I don't disagree with what either one of you are saying, or for that matter, what Dave's saying, but that being said, and I'm not telling Dave not to go out and buy a sprayer. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that, at some point, we may want to have Dave and we may want to rent his sprayer. I'm just not sure how deep in the weeds we're gonna get with redoing that down there. I guess that's the conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, and there's no hurry on that immediate hurry.
There's no immediate hurry, it's just that I'm gonna have the time available this
in the
winter.
winter.
I've,
Yep.
I've got some cleanup to do in the boiler room. All our mechanicals that are 100% written out.
Okay, so
That
let's,
brings me, yes, and I'm okay, I just think since you're talking about winter, if we can wait till December,
second,
yeah, and go from there to have the discussion, just simply because. But I do have another question. The other day, or last week, I came in and looked like the boiler people were here.
No, that wasn't the boiler,
Okay.
that's Frank Miller that's here. And Frank Miller comes in twice a year to look at all of the big units on the west side of the building.
Okay,
Which takes care of everything upstairs. I did have a conversation with him when he was in here. I asked him what we should believe the life expectancy on that equipment is. I think it's already about 12 years old. And he said somewhere between 12 and 20 years. So I think because we've been maintaining them and keeping an eye on everything and keeping anything from getting worse, he told me that we probably extended the life on that stuff, probably 4 or 5 years, so,
good,
but it is something that's gonna happen.
maintenance works. So on the December 2nd, what do you want on the agenda? Just something specific to that room downstairs as far as discuss and consider, well, painting,
well, I think the
ceiling.
first thing we have to determine is what the use of the room is. And then would that not determine,
I'm not sure you can do that without looking at the whole puzzle
You're
again.
not, you're really not gonna restructure anything down there.
Yeah,
The walls will probably all remain the same. The one on the west side, I wanted to put a wall up across there so that it could be used for storage, but I think that could definitely happen within the $2,000 too, so. In fact, I can probably run out to the resale store and buy a door out there that I can put in down there.
tell you what, how about if we do this on December 2nd? Why don't you bring us some specific ideas, discuss and consider.
full assessor office remodel?
Yeah,
So there has been discussion to take that room downstairs and let the auditor's office have it for storage of their election
but
equipment.
that's part of the room, not the whole room, isn't it?
I don't
Well, I
know.
don't
Well,
know.
that's something that needs to go on the agenda.
That's why I'm saying that,
Yeah.
that's what I meant when I said, to discuss the purpose
Mhm.
of
Well, we
the
can
room.
put that on, discuss and consider, and if we act or not, because again, I think it'd
If
be
you-
better to
yeah.
look,
Because I wasn't
big
necessarily
picture-
thinking about it being somebody's office.
No, I wasn't either. And if you look at all the stuff they've got to walk around in there, just the ease of how close it would be to the elevator to get them to out there and up and out. it
Well,
would just make life
not only
smoother.
that, the ease that the recount, or not the recount, but the
Absentee.
absentee
Mm.
people.
I'm
Absolutely.
probably gonna take advantage of that room since nobody's in it for the recount too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we had what, 8 people, 10
It
people down?
was too many, plus 9,000 ballots.
Well,
Yeah,
no, I mean, today,
Oh,
for the,
so they had 3 to 4 poll watchers at all times. And then 5 workers most of the time, 1 joined in and 2 machines going.
yeah. Okay,
No, I-
so
They did
can you
speed
put
up the
those 2
process.
items
Oh, yeah,
on
I-
December 2nd?
And besides
Pieces
Abby
around
wants it.
and
Yeah.
You know,
this
the other,
model.
the other thing that you got going on right now is,
Okay.
is right underneath this ball. Downstairs is where that voting equipment's currently being stored, the red bags, right? And
Okay, we'll talk about all that on December 2nd, okay?
and they shouldn't be in that room because of the moisture.
Okay.
At some point in time, that moisture may kill that equipment.
We've had mold problems on the
Yeah.
bags and had to put a dehumidifier in there.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
Is that Sandy's old office? Okay.
No, down below is hers, the other corner, I don't think was.
Well, no, but I mean, Sandy down there where they would do the
Right.
passports, that usually Sandy's office.
Yeah. Any other projects we need to know about or you want us to think about?
Nothing,
If you think
Yeah.
of something between now and December 2nd, let
Yeah.
Abby know so she can put it on the agenda.
and you see for that space down there, I've got old paint around here, you know, I can probably make 8 to 10 gallons of old paint for the walls. And some color.
Sometimes
I
those are the
mean,
best colors.
Purple.
I've seen
All the
that.
same color?
No, I
Do
just.
different walls, different
I know.
colors.
I just get 2 5-gallon buckets and make it a witch's brew and see if I come up with the right color.
Oh, you will if anybody can.
Yeah, but what'll happen is I'll end up using up the paint, and that way the only thing we'll end up having to buy is, would be the paint for the ceiling, and that's probably. I would say about $600, so it's not like we're spending a lot of money
Right.
here,
Right,
and you're not paying a dime for the labor.
I know. We appreciate you like to do
Oh,
that.
Abby's gonna paint, huh? Cool.
All right, anything else for us today? All right,
Nope,
all right,
so I'm gonna go ahead and get you that stuff,
okay,
you know, you guys can figure it out from there.
okay. Any other committee reports or we will move on to allow claims?
I don't remember.
Anything from safety committee?
Not a whole lot. They talked about a lot of injury incidents and stuff like that.
What about those online trainings? Supervisors need to do those too.
Right. Well, I don't know if they said that for sure. I don't know if they really talked about that.
But the safety committee. meeting?
Yeah,
Oh.
because I was over here on a Zoom while I was doing other stuff, or not a Zoom, on the phone.
So we were supposed to open bids.
There was one more thing I wanted to mention regarding that best move. The loose files that we moved over there.
Mhm.
We moved 16,800 of those.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were supposed to open bids Friday for Jackson Point,
Mm.
but we didn't get any.
Oh,
Jesse Burns, Mr. Burns is pushing hard to divest himself of property. Not an investment, but stop managing the property. I sent out an email and I listed 3 days that I think we need to meet this week to discuss moving forward, possibly reaching out to say for First Resources, for example, to say, okay, you guys were really hot on this property. Explain to us where your concerns are and maybe we can do something to address those concerns or alleviate those concerns. But because Mr. Burns is wanting out, we need to meet sooner than later, so I'm hoping we can get some folks together this week, but I haven't checked my email to see what the responses were to the email they sent out to Becky Smits and Gina Edwards and Chauncey and Sean.
why don't you call Ryan just as another
I did.
Okay, good.
I
I thought she might have some
no, we
ideas.
sent her the RFP and she
Okay.
disseminated it out to
Thanks.
her contacts.
Thank you.
So, I know that First Resources indicated they had a concern about a missed payment, which I'm not sure what they're referencing. I will find out, but we've never made any payments on the loan.
Right, right.
So, but that's something I'm concerned about. Iowa Finance Authority calling in the loan because of the missed payment or something. So I think it would behoove us, and Chauncey, I know, has worked with with Iowa Finance Authority, but it would behoove us to find out from First Resources and maybe Iowa Finance Authority giving them some kind of, not assurances, but
Yep.
you know,
Sounds good. Good luck with that.
right, because otherwise the options are not pretty.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $78,833.77?
So move.
Second, do we have any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.